What is going on, guys? Thanks for tuning in to the next episode of the Three Peaks Fitness Podcast. I'm Coach Mark.
I'm Coach Lynette.
Today we're going to talk about social support and how important it is.
Yeah.
And how there's a lot of how much it impacts you. There's a lot of things you may not realize when it comes to your fitness.
Yeah, you're going to be shocked today.
Yeah. And
we're going to start out with a scary story, but there is a happy ending. So hang on.
Yeah.
Buckle up.
Yeah. It's going to get wild.
So there's a hidden influence of your social network. You do not realize how much your friends and family influence your habits and how you look. Mm-hmm. So an extensive, many years long study resulted in the following results. If you have a friend who is obese, you are 45% more likely to be obese yourself.
Wow.
Yeah.
One friend. One friend.
Yeah.
Almost 50% more likely to be obese if you have one friend who is obese.
Yes. Now,
oh, goodness.
If your friend's friend is obese, you are 25% more likely to be overweight.
Now, is that because your friend who has a friend that's obese is 40% more likely to be obese?
Probably. I know. It can really blow your mind if you.
Jeez.
Yeah. Now, here it is. If your friend's friend's friend is obese, you are 10% more likely to be overweight.
Wow.
So you may not even know this person at this point.
Yeah.
So you have to go 4 degrees out before there is no influence on your habits or weight.
Woo.
Okay, and then if you're wondering about your family, if you have an adult sibling who's obese, you are 40% more likely to be obese. I've seen it. You have families that tend to be overweight.
Yeah.
And then if your spouse is overweight, you're 37% more like. I find it interesting that your sibling has a higher influence on you than your spouse.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow. So between 10 and 40, if you know someone who's obese, you're between 10 and 45% more likely to be obese.
Yeah. And when the results of this study came out, the newspapers had a heyday. So the headlines in New York City said, "You've been packing on the weight. Are your friends to blame?" Okay. But in Europe, the headlines said, "Your friends are gaining weight. Are you to blame?" So that's very telling about the American mindset.
Yeah.
Like, who can I blame?
Right. Whose fault is this?
Whose fault is
Can't
this?
Can't be mine.
Yeah, very interesting. So all the sociologists around there are like scratching their chins going, okay, so where's this influence coming from? Is this just the fact that your, behaviors influence each other, or your ideas, or are you just attracted to people that look like you because, like, hey, if I'm overweight, I want to hang out with someone else that's overweight? And I think it's all the things, right? Mm-hmm. It's also, I've noticed in my own experience, like, you get used to a norm. Things become more acceptable. Mm-hmm. Like, this is what's acceptable to eat, and this is what's acceptable to wear, and this is what's acceptable to look like.
Right.
You just sort of get used to that, being around people that have a way of thinking and living. And you were saying something interesting about going out to eat.
Yeah.
Depending on who you go out to eat with will influence your choices.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. If you go out to eat with people who are obese and maybe healthy food and exercise is not one of their top priorities, you guys all get together, we're going out for dinner, you go to Outback, they are those, people like that are probably more likely to be the ones that order the appetizers, right? Yeah. Like, let's order some wings. Oh, you want some wings? Like that. And it's not even probably a conscious thing, right? It's not like I'm consciously trying to gain weight, so I'm going to. No, it's just the behavior, the habits.
Yeah.
So if the more frequently you are around that, the more likely you are to succumb to the adult peer pressure that still exists. Peer pressure doesn't go away when you're a kid.
Yeah, if you've got friends that are making a lot of jokes like, oh, you only live once, you got to do this, or calories don't count if the person next to you eats more. They're using that, a lot of excuses of funny jokes to, not pay attention to what they're eating. I'm not saying it's not, it's okay to just, indulge sometimes. Yeah. But, if you find that happening a lot with your friends, like they're constantly making those excuses, that's an attitude, and it's going to rub off.
Yeah, and this isn't we're not trying to be judgmental or
right.
shame anyone. Like everyone can make their own choices. This is just our opinion on probably what's happening.
We're just trying to increase your awareness of how much your family and those around you influence how you're living and how you're feeling. Don't worry, this this has a happy ending. Don't worry. So so the people that you spend time with are the ones that you're going to become like. They influence who you become. Mm-hmm. And so I know some of you are probably thinking right away, well, what about the humans I live with? Like, I can't really do anything about that without making really extreme changes in my life. You know, I can't fire my family members. So true. But there are some things you can do. If you've got friends and family, and you don't have to give up your friends. You've got dear friends that, you know, they're just not ready to make changes like you are. It's okay. You don't have to give up your friends. So we're going to tell you what to do, how to lose weight or make whatever changes you want to make and still have good relationships with your current family and friends. So happy endings coming. So the first thing is to know that there's going to be a little bit of friction when you start changing something. Like if you want to start exercising more or if you want to start changing something in the way you eat. Food can be extremely emotional when you start changing what you eat. Other people can feel surprisingly threatened by what you're eating, even though it shouldn't matter.
Yeah.
It's like, who cares what another person is eating? But sometimes it does affect them when they see someone else eating something different. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of complicated things happening in people. So just expect a little bit of friction, and you don't reduce friction by pushing back. Just accept other people where they're at. They don't have to change how they're doing. They don't have to change anything about what they're eating, but you can hold your ground and say, you know, nope, no problem. You don't have to change anything. You know, I'm not judging you, but I am putting a salad with my dinner tonight, and that's just the way it's going to be, you know. Mm-hmm. So you don't have to add fuel to the fire, but at the same time, you have every right to make the changes you want to make. Mm-hmm. So that's something to remember. Just be brave and be positive, and always invite people to participate with you. Be persistent, but not pushy. So if you have decided that you want to walk more or go out for a walk after dinner, if that's something you've decided to incorporate into your practice, invite them to come with you. Even if you know they're going to say no, go ahead and invite them. It's like, would anyone like to come, you know, on this walk with me? They're going to say no. And then you're just like, okay, no problem. And then you just go on your walk. That might happen hundreds of times. Don't worry about it. Always be open-minded, and always have an open door to invite them to join you in your healthier practices. Because someday they're going to be inspired by your transformation, and then that will be important for them to feel invited. And it's also, people can feel threatened when you start making changes in your life. And they're inside of them, they might feel threatened, they might feel like, well, what if they don't want to be around me anymore? They're going to become this new person, they're going to find new friends, and we're not going to be able to do the fun things that we used to do. They're like, there's a lot of worries going through your spouse or friend's head going, you know, is this relationship going to change because of these changes you're going to make? You know, so just reassure them, like, hey, I love you unconditionally. We're still friends. I'm just adding this thing into my life. And so you want to be non-judgmental and open-minded. Also, especially in your family, if you're the one in charge of meals or have a heavy influence in your household, when you decide to make changes, a lot of moms do this. Dads can do it too, but I'm totally guilty of this when I was like, all right, we're making changes in this house. No more junk food. You know, we're going to eat vegetables, and we're not having any more ice cream in this house. No more Doritos or whatever. This is not the way to inspire change in your house. You want to do addition before subtraction. So you want to start adding things in, like, oh, we're going to try and have 3 colors of vegetables in our dinner tonight, or let's try a new vegetable this week that we've never had before. Start adding things in. Why don't we go bike riding as a family? I was never successful in this, but maybe someone else can. But start adding things. Oh, let's go for a walk. It's like, try and start adding things kindly, not forcefully, to your routine before you start taking things away. Eventually, maybe, everyone's different, but eventually maybe you do want a little bit of less of the processed foods and more whole foods, but give it time. You can't just do, a lot of people on YouTube or TV do these extreme clean outs and transformations, and that does not go well with people that are not on the same timeline as you, and they're not ready for those changes. So
it also doesn't, in my experience, go well long term for you either.
Right.
It's if you're just completely changing all of your habits overnight, you may be good for a few months, maybe even a year, but eventually you'll revert back because you didn't do it in a sustainable way.
Yeah,
so keep that in mind as well.
You don't know how to manage those things.
Yeah.
Because you only know how to be without them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But all this information was really interesting. The overall theme that I'm getting from it is that positive reinforcement is the key to making changes when it comes, especially when it comes to healthy changes in a social setting, right? You don't want to judge people, you don't want to shame people.
Yeah.
All you're doing is really what it is it doesn't matter what anyone else is doing.
Right.
Hey, I'm doing this for myself. I'm setting these are my boundaries that I'm setting with other people and myself, not in a judgmental way, just in like hey, this is what I need to do for myself. Mm-hmm. And I'd love for you guys to come along with me, but if not, that's okay.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
That's the mentality that you have to have.
Right. I have a lot of friends and clients that say, oh, I wish I could make changes, but no one else in my family wants to do this, or no one else in my circle of friends wants to do this. But you can't wait for them to be ready. So you're going to have to do this. You might have to be a leader. Mm-hmm. And that's a powerful place to be. But if you're going to be the pioneer and be the leader, you need to be a peaceful one.
Yeah.
So just quietly inspire other people.
Yeah.
But now I know the next thought you're having out there is, I've tried to do it by myself. It doesn't work. You're right. You can't do it by yourself. So what's the next step? Find objective support outside of that normal circle. So you need to go find a coach and go find a gym or some kind of a group that's doing the things that you want to do. They have the habits and the lifestyle that you want to be more like, and spend a little more time with them. That might mean a little less time with your current friends, depending on how much available time you have. But it doesn't, again, you're not giving up your old friends. Mm-hmm. You're just adding. You're adding some support that you need. You need that social support.
Yeah.
It's very important. So add that coach and that group that you need.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's very important. So also, there was one thing I thought of that I can't remember now. So this will create momentum, and that's really important. Mm-hmm. When you decide, all right, I'm going to be a leader, and then you just state, okay, this is how I'm going to do. I'm going to quietly inspire and just tell your friends and family, this is something I'm doing for myself. Then one problem I ran into when I first started making changes is I had no credibility because I had tried so many times before that, and my family tells me this now, they're like, oh yeah, we were just waiting you out, because they're like, oh, she's doing it. It's another health kick. We'll just wait this out, Mm-hmm. But, 6 months went by and I was still doing it, and they're like, oh, she's serious. So if they don't believe you at first, don't judge them for that. That's because you don't, you have not been consistent in the past.
Yeah.
So don't judge them. Just be consistent, persistent, but not pushy, and just keep going. And you will get there. You will inspire other people. And because you haven't been pushy or judgmental of other people and trying to force them to your way and see your point of view, then they're more likely to come on board later. But if you're pushy and judgy and trying to force them to your way of eating, your way of living, then they're just going to, they'll never, even if you're hugely successful, they're not going to want to come on board because you were so pushy about it. Like,
yeah.
It's going to leave us, it's like, oh, I don't want to do that. So, so if you want them on board, then state your boundaries, respect their boundaries, and be as peaceful as possible.
Yeah. What you're doing, what you're doing is none of their business.
Right.
And,
Yeah.
like, unless they want it to be.
Right. And then I know the next question, I know what everybody's, I know your thoughts out there. Oh, I can't cook 2-3 dinners every night. There are strategies to make a dinner where everyone, like you're not having to cook 2 or 3 dinners, right? There's a compromise to these things, and that's probably a topic for another podcast. But there are strategies for cooking dinners where there's different people eating different ways, and you're not having to spend 3 hours in the kitchen.
Well, right. It would be better to have.
Yeah.
We could make a separate podcast, but that goes under the assumption that if you are making healthy choices, that it is somehow disgusting, right? Like
True.
It is 100% possible to cook in a healthier manner, and it tastes really great for everyone.
Right. I mean, I changed what I was cooking for my family. Did not tell them. That was my strategy at the time. I didn't tell them, this is my new way of healthy eating. I just put it on the table, and they're like, okay. I didn't declare anything.
Forgiveness, not permission.
Right? I was just like, here it is, and they ate some of it and didn't eat some of it, and I didn't care. I was like, this is just what I made. So, So anyway, the good news is you can reach your health goals even if your family members and friends are not on board with it. You can be the pioneer, but find that support that you need.
Yeah.
The good news, and you can keep the family relationships intact.
Yeah, that's right. Be the leader.
Yes.
But that involves leading yourself.
Yes.
First and foremost.
The peaceful pioneer.
Yeah.
Yes.
Cool.
You can do it.
Cool. Yeah, well, hopefully this was helpful, guys. Go out there, and if you don't have one yet, find a social support system.
Yeah.
And just remember, it starts with you.
Yes, it does.
All right, guys. Hopefully this was helpful. We'll talk to you next time.
All right, bye.